Hi, it's 2026, and I thought I would do a recap of 2025. Some of the best books I read that year, some of the series I watched that I really enjoyed, some of the films I really enjoyed, and some albums that I really enjoyed listening to. Why am I making this video? Well, because I want to. And second of all, I just really enjoy seeing what other people have enjoyed, and I get a lot of recommendations that way. So also, I'm really sorry about lighting, but let's just deal with this, the shadows and whatever, because it gets dark at 3 p.m. and yes, I am tweaking out a little bit. Anyways, let's start with books. Honestly, I didn't have a good reading year. I only read 50 books. I remember one year I read 100 books. Those were the good days. And there are only 3 books on my list this year. And honestly, the first book is kind of the reason why I put together this whole video, because I just really wanted to talk about this. Genuinely my favorite book of 2025, Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. I finished it in December time. And I just still think about this. I sometimes go about my day and I'm like, wow, I really love these characters. Enjoyed the storyline. I kind of wish it would be like a movie or a TV show or something. And now I want to read Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. Basically, the premise is that there were 4 sisters and one of them passes away. And it's the journey of the other 3 sisters and how they cope with grief. And they all also have their own problems. It talks about addiction, a lot of trauma and relationships. It mostly takes place in New York, but it also takes place in London, Paris, LA. Just loved it. And honestly, I love all the sisters, but Bonnie is definitely my favorite sister. To read this, it's good writing and it's good storytelling, and I love these characters. My second thing on the list is actually a series. It's the Heartstopper series by Alice Oseman. I read them in 2 days. I mean, it is a graphic novel. I've never really read graphic novels before, and now I'm really intrigued about that whole space that exists. I'm really interested in picking up some other graphic novels in the future, maybe even trying to read mangas. But this is just a really sweet coming of age story and accepting your sexuality, and it talks about a lot of very serious topics in a safe and comforting way, I think. I mean, the premise is there are 2 kids, Charlie and Nick, and it's their love story, but also one of them coming to terms with the fact that he might be gay or bi. And there's also talk about eating disorders and mental health. I mean, if I ever had a kid and they wanted to talk to me about certain topics, I would honestly even recommend them to read these, because it was just very sweet and cute, and I get the hype. And the third book is called Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. This is also a fantasy, and it has so many characters that sometimes it was hard to keep up. But I think that the end and the whole wrap up of the story was rewarding. But it's definitely not like a book where you just follow a story and it's straight to the point. It's very straightforward. This one, you need to take maybe a little bit time. Not even, you don't need time, but you just need to focus and be patient. The storyline is basically that there's so many different storylines, but they mesh and meet and connect. And then anyways, so I guess the main thing is that there's this Immortals game that Immortals play, because there are like vampires and ghosts and all these different creatures in this book, and they play this game, and the only rule is to not lose. And then some of the characters that we follow basically end up playing this game, and then how it ends and so on. But yeah, and there's this vampire who's a real estate agent, which I found hilarious, and she has a problem with this house because in that house there's a ghost that only she and very few others can see, and this ghost is basically trying to figure out like why he died. Then there's the story with the death's godson, and they all need to work together to solve some things. Anyways, I highly recommend it. I also found it funny that death is German in this book. Those are basically all the fiction books that I put on my list, but I have 2 honorable mentions that are non-fiction. First book that I'm gonna mention is called Invisible Women: Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men, and it's written by Caroline Criado Perez. And basically, this talks about how a lot of the world is built based on data, and that data comes from men. The cover said it nicely. Like, imagine a world where your phone is too big for your hand. Your doctor prescribes a drug that is wrong for your body. In a car accident, you are 47% more likely to be seriously injured. If any of this sounds familiar, chances are that you're a woman. So yeah, read this. And the second book actually is 100 Days by Kamala Harris. This book was a surprise to me. I did listen to it on audiobook, so Kamala Harris actually read that. It felt like she was telling me a story. If you're interested in politics, even a little bit, and you want to understand how, for example, in the US, vice presidents and presidents' relationships are and how they view each other, and also how it is to run for president in the USA, because quite frankly, it's insane. And then I highlighted 2 authors that I enjoyed. One of them, William Somerset Maugham. I think in 2026 I want to read even more of his books. I've always known that I like his short stories and so on, but there are some books I still haven't read, and I think 2026 is a year where I'm going to read some of them. I mean, the juxtaposition of these 2 authors is appalling, but the second author is actually Ali Hazelwood. I think I've read all of her STEM romances. Like, I mean, she's a romance author. You can never go wrong with the Ali Hazelwood book. I started 2025 with Love on the Brain by her, and then I also read Problematic Summer Romance by her, and I also read Deep End by her. Because I got given this book. And honestly, I was very like about reading Deep End, for example, because of the marketing. And I was like, oh, this is just like spice. But my friend who gave it to me was like, trust me, it's not that. And they don't read like really spicy books. I was like, okay, let me try this. It was actually really good. And I did laugh at some of the Swedish stereotypes that are in this book, because the main guy, so MMC, is actually from Sweden. So just sometimes you need that fluffy romance, and Ali Hazelwood just delivers. Moving on to films. I put 4 films from 2025 on my list. They're very basic. So the first one that I put is Materialists by Celine Song, Dakota Johnson, Pedro Pascal, Chris Evans, rom-com, but not your like regular cheesy rom-com. Also great commentary on today's dating scene, and visually great film, great art, great movie making. Then I have Frankenstein on my list by Guillermo del Toro. In here plays Oscar Isaac, Jacob Lordy, Christoph Waltz, Maya Koth. I mean, it's just, honestly, the first like 45 minutes I was like, oh, what, like I think I'm bored. But then the rest of the movie I was hooked, and I did cry. I was surprised by how much I liked it. Then I have Wake Up Dead Man by Rian Johnson on my list. Here, I mean, Daniel Craig, Josh O'Connor, Glenn Close, Mila Kunis. I mean, what a randomly great cast, and a funny movie, also a mystery. There's a murder, and it also talks about religion a lot. I mean, makes sense because the main character is a priest. I was hooked. And then the 4th movie that came out in 2025 is probably, honestly, my favorite movie that came out in 2025. Oh, hello. Kind of on theme, that feature showed up, but basically the film from 2025 is Zootopia 2. No notes, it's directed by Jared Bush and Byron Howard. Talks about gentrification, power struggles, propaganda, how minorities are being pushed out. I mean, it is a children's movie, but I did laugh out loud many a time when I went to the cinema. I already knew I would love it because I love Zootopia 1. But Zootopia 2, in my opinion, better in some ways than Zootopia. So yeah, but overall my 2025, movie-wise, was very classics, watching some films I haven't seen. Sorry, if I say movie and film at the same time, they're the same thing in my brain, okay? I mean, they are, but yeah, anyway, so the films that I overall watched in 2025 were classics. Letterboxd actually came out with the statistics of my 2025, I watched 119 films, which is actually a crazy amount of films to watch. But yeah, I never realized how many films I watch. Anyways, so my whole year focus was watching classics that I haven't seen before or maybe have seen like a long time ago. So I watched like Casablanca, one of my new favorites. I watched The Godfather 1 and 2. I think Godfather 1 is now one of my favorite films, and I realized so many references in my other favorite films are from The Godfather. So it kind of opened up a whole new world for me. And then I also watched Sleepless in Seattle for the first time, which I loved. Also makes sense because When Harry Met Sally is one of my favorite rom-coms. But yeah, anyways. And then Before Sunrise, no notes. I still think about it. And I also have one honorable mention that I really want to highlight. I watched a Ukrainian drama film called My Thoughts Are Silent. The director is Antonia Lukic. It's a film that was made in 2019, and it's so bizarre, but it's so funny. The dark humor in that one. I did watch it with a Ukrainian, so she was kind of explaining some things, and she was like, oh, this was here, this is here, this is why this was here. But it was just so freaking good. Anyways, continuing series. I have written down 3 here. First, in February, I watched Sex and the City for the first time in my life, the whole way through. Really enjoyed it. It was so funny, and I mean, the fashion, of course. There's so many pop culture references in that one. I did enjoy the episodes that were written and I think directed by Darren Starmore. So the first, like, I think 4 seasons were my favorite, and after Darren Star kind of took a backseat, I don't know. Yeah, something just changed and I didn't really enjoy it that much, but overall, still good one. Then the other one that actually I finished the last season last night, but it's The White Lotus by Mike White. Crazy, crazy TV, crazy plot twists, also hilarious. The way he made fun of rich people, especially I think season 1. Season 1 was insane. Season 2 also so funny. Season 3, I think I was just flabbergasted the whole time, and I wasn't really laughing. I was just like, what? But I have it on my list. And third, and to probably no one's surprise, I have Stranger Things on my list because, well, Stranger Things season 5 came out. There's a lot of discourse about it on the internet. Honestly, I liked the ending. I didn't have any expectations, and I also didn't dive into all the fan theories, so I wasn't disappointed in the end. Insane 10-year journey. I've grown up with it, and crazy production. I'm actually super excited to see the Netflix documentary One Last Adventure, the making of Stranger Things 5. Also, I really did enjoy the last song that they chose for the outro or credits, Heroes by David Bowie. Then I read in an article that actually Joe Keery came up with that, or suggested that song, and Jamie Campbell Bower. I hope he does get some awards for his acting. And then albums. It's the longest list I have, but let's make it short and sweet. So I have 4 albums that came out in 2025. So the first one, The Crooks by Joe Keery. Joe, also the guy who plays Steve Harrington in Stranger Things. I saw him live in Berlin. He sounds the same live as he does on his album. His whole band is just so good. And his other band, Post Animal, I really enjoyed the stuff they did on stage as well, and I'm excited to see more of what they're gonna do. And also the deluxe version is amazing. So I think The Crooks was my soundtrack of 2025. Then I have The Dream by The Favors, and in the band there's Phineas and Ash. No notes again. Incredible what they did. I hope they do more stuff in the future, and they just seem so excited about the project. And a lot of people have said that it feels very Fleetwood Mac like esque, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of Fleetwood Mac. I listen to Fleetwood Mac I think every week. So it was just refreshing to see or hear that kind of music in this day and age. And I really hope that they do something else together. Then I have The Art of Loving by Olivia Dean. 2025 was Olivia's year. No notes, just pure vibes. And her voice is just angelic. And I really hope I see her live someday. And I feel like 2026 summer, I will have that album on repeat again. Last album, Deadbeat by Tame Impala. No notes again. Incredible. I've had Dracula and Loser on repeat since it came out in October, and I really hope I get to go on his tour. I'm trying to get tickets right now, but everything is sold out, and I'm on Ticket Swap every day trying to get tickets, but they're expensive and they're sold out, so manifesting tickets. And then I thought I would do 3 honorable mentions. Albums that didn't come out in 2025, but I really enjoyed listening to. So the first one is Pink Moon by Nick Drake. This album came out in 1972. Nick Drake's music is just incredible. Actually, I listened to his old discography in 2025, but I think Pink Moon as an album stood out, and I don't know how many times I listened to it from start to finish, especially in the summer. Then second album is Speaking in Tongues by Talking Heads. This album came out in 1983. I think my realization in 2025 is how much I love Talking Heads. I think Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads, it's on their Remain in Light album that came out in 1980. It's like one of my all-time favorite songs. I will never get tired of this song, and just Talking Heads in general. 2025, I embraced my love for Talking Heads. The last album is actually an Estonian album called Lähen müüjaks by Vaiko Eplik and Vaiko Eplik ja Eliit. Came out in 2024. It is based on the lyrics of a very famous Estonian poet called Betty Alver. I love her poetry. I'm not really a poetry kind of person, but Betty Alver is one of my favorites if I had to choose. And just Lähen müüjaks was amazing album to listen to in the summer. So yeah, let me know if you enjoyed this. Please comment your favorite books, TV series, films, albums in the comments. Maybe you have some recommendations, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye!